Welcome to Two Guys and Mike podcast. I'm your host, Jason Thompson, and my illustrious co-host.
It's Michael Vincent.
And we're here today at an undisclosed location in upstate New York. We have a wonderful guest today, Mr. Phil Barrett. He's the town supervisor of Clifton Park and also heavily involved in Saratoga County. We're going to talk about all things Saratoga today. And without further ado, hello, Phil. How are you?
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for having me. I will not disclose where we are.
That's good because we have a lot of haters out there.
Very good at keeping secrets.
A lot of haters. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Currently I'm chairman of the Saratoga County Board of Supervisors, also the town supervisor of Clifton Park, so keep pretty busy and a lot going on in the county and the town.
Yeah, going on that note, Bass Pro Shop's coming to town.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be opening up, I guess, groundbreaking's this summer, and opening up
roughly a year from now.
Fall 24,
roughly.
25,
I don't
they
want to
said?
be held to any timeline for,
Come on now. We're all looking
projects
forward
that
to
I
it.
have no control over, but
These things seem to take a long time. I mean,
Well,
I
they-
heard
they-
a little bit about this a year ago.
yeah, well, they were able to get preliminary approval from our planning board in Clifton Park, but then months passed because they were dealing with other agencies. If you have a development project, might be housing, might be commercial, you're dealing with more than just the town of Clifton
Sure.
Park. You know, there's
Government-
other agencies,
DEC,
right?
DOT.
DEC, Army Corps,
Yeah.
Department of Health. You know, it all depends on the project.
Sure.
So they had to go through a process that took a number of months with an agency that had nothing to do with the town of Clifton Park. So that seemingly held up the project. I mean, people saw a lot of action and then all of a sudden nothing for a number of months. But they had to get through a process with another agency. Once that process was done, they asked to be on the planning board agenda for final site approval. And they just recently received it. So right now they're cleared. They have all the permits they need from Clifton Park and everybody else. So I think you'll see a lot of action soon on that site. It was already cleared last year. They cleared the site. So yeah, it's exciting. A lot of excited people about them coming to Clifton Park.
That was the Bill Cass North Star Chevrolet, right?
Yes,
Location?
correct.
Yep.
Yep.
Jay, can you pull up that store? It's going to be a 70,000 square. Head of the Chamber of Commerce there.
Yeah.
He and I on Facebook were going back and forth about Bass Pro Shop and Chick-fil-A, where I always thought that the corridor there is really tight to begin with, and now you're throwing Chick-fil-A and Bass Pro Shop. We're like, traffic's going to be horrible, but I have to eat crow because so far Chick-fil-A hasn't caused the congestion I thought it was going to cause, I think, and hopefully it doesn't get worse with the Bass Pro Shop. But it's a great job whoever marketed the town for these big name corporations. That's awesome.
Well, we do the best we can, bringing a little southern hospitality, I guess, to Clifton Park and Saratoga County between Chick-fil-A and Bass Pro. But, yeah, I mean, when I was asked about traffic when Chick-fil-A was opening, simple answer. There's many reasons why thousands of people visit Exit 9 each day. Chick-fil-A will just be one more. Bass Pro will be one more. So in the first few weeks, I'm sure it's going to be exceptionally busy. Over time, the crowds, normalize. And that's what you saw with Chick-fil-A. The first few weeks, it was just unbelievably busy. Yeah. But we worked very closely with Chick-fil-A, with our policing partners and others to make sure that we had a plan in place for when they opened, knowing it was going to be a huge crush of people those first few weeks. So even on opening day that Chick-fil-A was open, if you drove by on 146, you'd have no idea that Chick-fil-A was open. There was no line of cars jammed up on Clifton Country Road or anywhere else.
That's actually what I envisioned.
Yeah. So I understand. Every time something new is added, the mall's 96% full. The Hannaford Plaza is, I believe, all full. Maybe they have one small vacancy. The
And
Price
they've added
Chopper.
quite a few other businesses in the Hannaford Plaza.
Yeah. So you know, Exit 9 is performing exceptionally well, and it's so important for the future of the town.
Yeah.
Very important to Saratoga County as a whole. When I took office in 2000, Exit 9 was suffering. It was not doing well. A lot of empty stores. The mall was half empty. There was a lot of speculation the mall was going away,
I remember that.
which would have been a terrible thing for the town and the county. The Grand Union had just gone out of business. Where Target was, that was an empty building.
Builder Square.
Yeah, with Builder Square, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't remember Builder Square had this
Remember that?
huge store.
Yeah,
They were like Home Depot before Home
Correct.
Depot, but then they went out of business. But they had a huge store there, and that was taken down, and new Target was built. So once Boscov's, they were the first victory back in 2001, I guess that was. I was able to forge a business relationship with Mr. Boskov through trying to constantly contact him and tell him about Clifton Park. And I don't think they would be in Clifton Park for the last 20 plus years if it were not for Mr. Boskov calling the shots. Because all of the real estate people that these corporations hire, they were telling everybody Clifton Park has seen its better days. You don't want to be in Clifton Park. Just go to Saratoga, go somewhere else.
Really?
And when Mr. Boskov said, no, we're good. I understand we have a store that we've already said we're going to build in Wilton. Pull the plug on that. We're going to Clifton Park. And that spurred a lot of growth. That brought Target and Kohl's to fill empty storefronts. And then the mall took a turn for the better. And once we got the snowball going in the positive direction, you see what you see today. And we all want low taxes. We all want schools that are well funded. And Exit 9 is a big reason why those two things are a reality.
I also think having stuff like Bass Pro, Chick-fil-A, a good mall is a draw for tourism too. And that's an important part of a community, is to have something for people to come and want to be part of.
Right.
I think that I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago about, I find we're quick to dismiss niche businesses for cookie cutter businesses. And what happens, you lose a uniqueness, which is what draws people in. You know, like how many times do we all take our kids to Hoffman's Playland?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and now it's gone. But that was something that I think every family did. That's why you went to Loudonville, and then all the shops around it kind of benefited from that. And I think we're very quick to dismiss venues like that. And I think attracting a Bass Pro Shop and a Chick-fil-A, these are all like unique adventures in themselves that families take. And I think that's a great thing to have in our area.
Yeah, I agree. Having a brand like that is incredibly important for the town and the county. I've said for years, as we started our initiative to redevelop Exit 9, because that was the goal. The goal was to take all these empty stores and redevelop them into new, successful retail places, and that's what we've been able to do. But I said from the very beginning, if we want brand names to locate here in Clifton Park, you have to start by attracting brand names. So that's why it was so important to get Boscov's here first. And then you start to build respectability, and people start to say, gee, maybe we should take a second look at Clifton Park.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like everything's worked out.
Yeah, like I said, if you want low taxes, I mean, we're almost at the bottom for municipal taxes in the whole state for towns, and that's the controller's information, not mine. But having well-funded schools, and they have the ability to not raise their taxes too much, usually a few percent a year. There's a lot of places around the state where municipal and school taxes are going up considerably every year. That's not happening here.
So what's on the horizon for Clifton Park
Well, we've
and
really
yourself, for that matter?
well, I'd rather talk about Clifton Park because that's much more important than me. When I'm long gone, Clifton Park's still going to be here, and I'm hoping it'll always be successful. And
But like every ship,
just
always
trying
a
to
good captain.
Yeah, well, we'll just try to leave it better than what you found it, right?
Absolutely.
So our focus over the years has been to redevelop Exit 9, grow our commercial tax base, preserve property, and grow our parks and trails network. And those are very important things, and to invest in recreation, especially since COVID, because I think during COVID, everybody started to appreciate being outdoors,
Yep.
and people started to flock to our parks like never before. And I'm sure that was the case in other municipalities. So just in the last few years, we redeveloped that huge playground that we have on the Common. You won't see another playground like that in this area. Big, beautiful playground, and lots of children, families use it each and every day. We just opened 10 new pickleball courts up at Veterans Park.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, we just finished construction of an adventures rope course that we're going to be opening later this month. So those are just some of the
And these are all free,
investments.
free to everybody?
Yeah, well, the ropes course that has to be a structured
Sure.
event
Yeah.
because our staff is very well trained. I'm not saying it's dangerous, but you do have to
Challenging.
make sure that you're keeping all safety precautions front of mind. So, but that's another big investment. And we're methodically going through our older playgrounds and updating them. So, investing in recreation on top of everything I just mentioned. I mean, we've permanently preserved 2,000 acres of property over the last 20 plus years, and that's a lot of that's been added to our parks network, new parks throughout the town. And again, those are very important. People want that opportunity for recreation, and it's great for property values.
Yeah, a strong community is good for property values.
That's right.
Segue into other things. We want to talk about the Albany Saratoga Speedway.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of controversy in the last 6 months happening with that,
Yeah.
coming to a head in the last probably couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it looks like Mr. Commander decided to sell the property. And what are your thoughts on that? I know you're an avid race car guy. You enjoy the races.
Yeah. Well, you just talked about losing unique places.
And that was one of my big things. These are draws that bring people to this area, and so they get hotel rooms, they eat restaurants, and they maybe move here because they like the venues. And now we're letting these places go through, I believe, bad central planning. Where government could do something to make these seasonal businesses a little more profitable for the owners, or at least make them thrive a little better. And I think it's a shame that we're letting that.
I think too often, I want to talk about the track, but I just want to make this point. I think all too often we focus on the local issues, and somehow it's the local government's fault. Well, I want more because I can't afford things anymore because of inflation. Well, Phil Barrett in the Clifton Park Town Board and the Saratoga County Board of Supervisors didn't cause this inflation.
Yeah.
This inflation was caused by other government policies and levels of government
Bad federal
far
policies.
above us.
Yeah.
But of course, people come to us and want us to do certain things that a lot of times we really can't do because they need help with different, operating their business or being able to afford certain things or negotiating union contracts, whatever the case may be. And we didn't cause that inflation. As a matter of fact, if you look at Saratoga County, as far as affordability goes, and again, I'll go back to the low taxes and the well-funded schools, the recreation, the County Board of Supervisors and your local municipal governments, for the most part, have done an incredible job keeping the cost of living down in Saratoga County. Now, you do have rising property values, which everybody likes, and I know right now with the rise in those values, it's difficult especially for first-time home buyers.
Very difficult.
And
Sure.
rents have increased tremendously. But we didn't cause that inflation. So you need to keep that in mind when you go to the polls, when you're voting for people other than your local town supervisor or a town board. But on the racetrack, you're right. You're losing unique entertainment venues. Is a concern. Now, before we go too far in criticizing local government, huge development project, 700 plus apartments,
Sure.
and there's commercial in there as well. So it's huge, and there's no zoning for that. As a matter of fact, the track was there before zoning, which is why it's been able to continue to operate without too much hassle. But at this point,
So, I'm sorry, so the track predates any type of zoning?
yes,
Really?
predated zoning in Malta, yes.
God, I wish I was them.
But for a project like this, it's a town board vote.
Okay.
So it's a political process. They will have to go through that process, which I would assume will include some public meetings, public hearing, I would think at least one public hearing, and then the town board needs to vote to either approve the project or not. It's probably done under a planned unit development,
Sure.
Is what it's called, and basically there's no zoning for this. So the town board, in essence, needs to create legislation and approve that legislation that would allow this project to occur on that one singular parcel in the town of Malta. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
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 So I think I understand most people don't understand that process because they picked an area where the zoning fits what
Yeah,
they
there's
want
already
to
a
do.
business there that was a retail business.
Exactly.
Property, I mean, so they were able to put their M1, whatever it is.
Go straight to the planning board. There is no town board vote. In this case, with this project for the Malta Speedway, there is no zoning for 700 apartments
Right.
and everything they're looking to do. So it's a town board vote for that project,
So-
or not, or against it.
As a layman, obviously, I don't profess to know anything about town politics,
Sure.
state government, or any other. But as an outsider looking in, somebody who likes unique venues, for argument's sake,
Yep.
what would be wrong, or how would you accomplish? Again, it kind of goes against my core beliefs of being a libertarian, but I think that at some point you got to protect things. That you say, well, this property is forever going to be a racing property, so that you don't lose places like that.
Can't do that.
Can't do that.
No. Now, in Clifton Park, Malta, Half Moon, communities, every parcel has to be zoned something. Okay? You can't zone something forever wild. You cannot destroy the value of a person's property to the point where they can't do anything with it. Now, I know people will say, well, what about wetlands laws and things of that nature? Well, those are state and federal regulations. But every parcel has to be zoned something, okay? And in this case, I don't even know what the underlying zoning is. Like I said, the track was there before zoning, but I don't know what the underlying zone would be for that parcel. That's a good question. But no, you can't say in the zoning code, well, this parcel will always be a speedway and nothing else. There would have to either be a zoning designation, some kind of a commercial zoning designation, or it could be residential zoning designation, but it's got to be zoned something. And if you don't like the zoning and you want to do something
Feel
different,
it.
like 700 apartments,
Sure.
well, you can do that by going through this process where the town board
Yeah.
must approve
Put together
that
a plan
project.
and bring it to us, and
Yes.
we'll
Yes.
look at that.
So how would you suggest a mechanism to prevent all these, I want to call them roadside attractions, so to speak, from disappearing from our landscape. Things that are unique to certain municipalities. You look at the things that have closed in the last 20 years, the water slide world, Elkins, a lot of the seasonal chip stands. Obviously, Saratoga Speedway is coming. What's the
Hoffman's Playland.
Hoffman's Playland,
Rodeo.
The road, Double M Rodeo. There's quite a few that we can name. But how does government say, listen, we've got to stop this hemorrhaging of these unique things that attract people to our communities, because we want to have all these developments and multi-McMansions and again, as a layman, I just look at things that I did as a kid that have all closed and now are a development, brick and mortar building, they're a shopping center.
Right.
That doesn't build your community. Granted, it brings tax base, but doesn't bring uniqueness to your municipality. How do you prevent that from happening? How do you spur that to stay?
Oh, there's a lot to unpack there. But I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this.
But I think that's something that's important to people. You know what I mean?
All those businesses you mentioned, there's two factors. One, the cost of operating those businesses has gone
Sure.
through the roof, especially here in New York. Two,
Workers' comp alone.
when the purveyor of those businesses gets to a certain age and wants to retire or, God forbid, passes away, if there's nobody else that's clamoring to do that type of business, and unless the owner says, I'm going to take less money to sell this business to the next person, it's very difficult in a place like Saratoga County, where people want to live and land is very valuable. It's unless you have that type of a scenario, and the person who owns the property says, look, I'm just going to cash out for the biggest buck I can get. I'm not going to worry about what's coming later. Typically, it's going to be sold for the highest and best use. And a lot of times in Saratoga County, that's housing. Now, again, we're going back to the Malta Speedway, 700 units of apartments. That's a whole different discussion.
That's a small municipality.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole different discussion from some, housing development of single-family houses, might be 50 houses or something. That's a whole different deal. So that's really what it comes down to. Interest in carrying on that business, the willingness of the former owner to accept less money so that business can continue. Because in this case, the owner of the Malta Speedway property, he's going to make a lot more money if he can sell that property for 700 apartments and commercial space. He's going to make a heck of a lot more selling it to somebody who can get that approved compared to selling it to somebody who would keep it as a speedway. So, but we see this with a lot of these types of businesses, and it's like farming. How many people don't want to continue the family farm? They're just, they're off doing other things, have other interests.
But getting back to my initial thought of government doing something, could you imagine trying to open a speedway today?
Oh gosh.
See what I mean? This
Yeah.
is a quandary we're in.
Yeah. Well, and now that,
let's say tomorrow morning I had 100 acres. I'm like, I want to open a speedway.
Yeah.
Nobody would allow that.
It'd be difficult. It'd be difficult. Now, the same gentleman that owns the Malta Speedway owns Lebanon Valley.
Yes.
Now you talk about two diametrically opposed areas, right?
Yeah, middle of nowhere. And
Route 9 in Malta.
Yeah.
And then Lebanon Valley. I mean,
Well,
both very nice places,
But at
but
one
very
time,
different.
there was nothing there.
Yeah, it's just very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole different setup. So, operating a track there, from the standpoint of any noise or neighbors, it's a lot easier to operate
Sure.
Lebanon Valley than it is Malta.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no doubt about it. But so we'll see what happens. But basically, the town board needs to approve what is being submitted If they don't approve it, then I don't know what happens at that point. I guess the owner and the applicant go back to the drawing board, or maybe somebody else steps in and is interested in doing something else. Hard to say.
What would be your take on the whole? This was happening in Clifton Park. What do you think?
Well,
What's your thought?
I'm biased. One, it's not my money.
Of course. Well, no.
So I always start by saying
Sure.
that it's not my money. So it's easy for me to
You're
say.
not getting a multi-million-dollar check, right? Yeah.
So it's easy for me to say that somebody should, consider taking less money
Yeah, absolutely.
or only continue it as a racetrack. So let me preface my remarks with that. But certainly I would prefer that it remain a speedway. It's a
Yeah.
place that I've gone and spent God knows how many nights.
A lot of memories there.
Oh yeah, and there's thousands of people in this area with the same memories and the same
went there as a kid.
sentimental thoughts. And even today, you go to the track, the pits are full with cars, the stands are full. So it's.
I mean, he really packs it in there. He puts on a great show.
Yeah, it's not as if the product is going backwards. It's not as if the stands are, that used to be full or half full. No, they're full every week. They're full, and the pits are full. There's millions and millions of dollars of money in that pit area. And a lot of people look down their nose at auto racing for whatever reason, I don't know. But you have hundreds of people there. They have blood, sweat, tears, and money invested in something they love to do.
I know guys that sold
And
their
there's
house to maintain the race team.
And there's millions of dollars in that pit area. So, and they have these big investments, and they are working on those investments with their hands, with their blood, sweat, and tears. And I think that's why there is such a just an engagement and there's
Passion.
Yeah, there's such a passion for what they do, and they care so much about it. And I'll never forget famous announcer. His name escapes me at the moment, but I remember him. He owned a track up in Vermont, somewhere up in New England, and he talked about how the racetrack on a Friday or Saturday night was a place where, the average guy that you see in the store or what, he goes out, and on that night he's a hero. He's a local hero. He wins a race. He finishes up front. His friends, his family cheering him on. So it's I think very Americana, because it's all about ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and we're just ordinary people here on this podcast talking about it, and we support those types of things. And I just love going there all these years and seeing how hard these people work and what they put into the sport. It is truly incredible, and even going to NASCAR, the big time, where one team is multi-millions of dollars. And you see the Joe Gibbs in the pits and the Roger Penske's and what these gentlemen have accomplished, Richard Childress, just incredible. And I just have a great deal of respect for all of them.
So, obviously, sitting here, we can tell the passion you have for the local sport.
Yeah.
What? Again, not to put you on the spot. I don't mean to do that. Obviously, I apologize.
Go ahead.
I apologize.
Go
I don't want it to come out like that. But these are questions I have in my mind, and I know a lot of my friends have been chirping in my ear the last couple of weeks.
Right.
Some of them we know, as well. And what, as a county, can we do, or individuals get together and because the other places, other than Albany Saratoga Speedway, you have Fonda Fultonville, which is out 40 minutes to an hour.
Yep.
You have Devil's Bowl, 40 minutes to an hour. You have Lebanon Valley, 40 minutes to an hour.
Right.
I mean, there'll be nothing left. There'll be a giant black hole in our area and there's a lot of race teams out here. There's a lot of people that are passionate about racing. Is there anything that you foresee that could be done to either A, create another track, entice somebody to come up with the money and counter? Again, try to bring up things that people have tripped in my ear for the last 2 weeks, because they are, just like yourself, I mean, super passionate about this. And they're dying inside thinking that at this time next year, there's no Albany Saratoga Speedway.
Well, and I don't know how many times over the years the chairman of Saratoga County Board of Supervisors has been an avid race fan. I don't know how many times that's happened. It's probably a very, very low number. And so it especially pains me seeing it happen now. But I don't own the property.
Sure.
And ultimately our Constitution protects personal property rights, thankfully. And what he decides to do with the property is ultimately his call. Now, can we assist? Have I contacted the ownership over there before any of this was known or public? Yeah. Government does have programs. People see businesses helped out all the time, IDAs, and we have SEDC and the chamber and great groups that work to promote economic development and attract businesses, but also maintain the businesses that are here. Try to help them continue to be successful. So those talks didn't get anywhere because obviously there was something else going on that I didn't know about and just became public recently. So now it makes sense. But if we had that opportunity again, I would be very aggressive working with Speedway management to try to come up with some ways that we can help them, whether it be capital investments that they may want to make or if you don't know the plan, which I didn't,
You can't address
if I don't own the property, which I don't, you can only offer.
Sure.
And that's all you can do. So, obviously, if this project goes through and is approved by the Malta Town Board, I have no idea what the contract price is for the purchase, but it's going to be a sizable amount of money and much more, I'm sure, than he could get from somebody who would continue it as a racetrack. Are there people that would continue it as a racetrack? Absolutely.
I think that people will probably line up out the door.
I don't know if they would be lined up out the door, but you don't need 10, you just need one. So would there be interested people? Yes, absolutely.
All right.
And I can say that for a fact.
For a minute, it sounded like you were interested in taking it over.
No, it's kind of like, it's one of those things that's near and dear to my heart, the roadside oddities type of stuff.
Yeah.
And to me, the Speedway is just one of those uniquely Saratoga places.
Well, normally I would say, well, if we don't support it, it's going to go away.
And yet we're
I
supporting
always
it.
say that.
Yeah. And yet,
If you want stores close to home, well, if you don't support them and you buy
Correct.
everything on Amazon, guess what?
Yeah.
They're going to go away.
Right.
And so normally I would say that here, but when the stands are full every week, when there's some weeks the pit area can't even
hold all the cars.
hold all the cars, that's
It's like the reverse of what should be happening.
yeah, that is a burgeoning business, and I have no idea how much money they
Sure.
make. I have no idea whatsoever.
Just because it looks full doesn't mean they're making money.
Yeah, I mean,
I get
it's
that.
very expensive
Yeah.
to operate any bit, like we were just talking about. Some of those examples you gave of businesses, I mean, the cost of running the, liability and everything, especially now,
Yeah.
the way inflation is, costs are through the roof. You see it at home, you see it in your business.
No.
Do you see you would know a lot more? Is there any property in Saratoga County that either the county owns or is joint ventured in, or is somebody that would be willing to do a partnership? Is there any other avenue that could be looked into or explored where we could put another speedway?
Well, I don't know that I mean, there's probably a zoning designation somewhere for
is where government's got its
that
foot in.
includes a speedway.
Yeah.
Because when I say every parcel has to be zoned
Sure.
something, it could be residential. Well, there's different types of residential zoning. There's commercial. Okay, well, there's different types of commercial zoning. And as a municipality, what you try to do is make transition points. So maybe you have some neighborhoods here that are zoned residential, but you're getting closer to the Northway, so you want to transition into some business zoning. So you would have residential, and then you'd have a commercial designation with...
Almost like a buffer, yeah.
Yeah, with some low-impact businesses. And then maybe as you get closer to the Northways, more higher-impact businesses because of the proximity to the highway, and you're away from neighborhoods. So there's probably zoning somewhere where out of a list of maybe 20, 30 allowed uses, a speedway would be allowed. I don't know where that does exist, but it might. Otherwise, if there's a municipality that doesn't have that zoning, and I don't know anybody that does, it would be similar to what's being proposed here. It would be a situation where an applicant would go to a local municipal town board or city council and say, I want to build this racetrack here, but it doesn't fit zoning, so I need you to create legislation specifically for my parcel to allow me to operate the racetrack.
Yeah, for a change of use.
Yes, just like they're doing for the hundreds of apartments and commercial on the Speedway property, if indeed it does get approved. So it would be the same process. Now, where that might happen, I don't know. Typically, you see speedways in more rural areas, with exceptions, but typically it's in more rural areas for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And when the speedway opened, and for many years, it was in a rural area. It's a little less rural now, right?
Yeah.
So they continue to operate. And I will say, Lyle DeVore and his team are incredible operators. I mean, he's fantastic, and they do a great job there. They keep that show moving, and they get it done as early as possible. They try everything to be a good neighbor, and they succeed at it. They succeed at putting on a great show, and they succeed at being a good neighbor. And that's another reason why, because they've proven you can do it.
Yeah.
I think that absolutely raises the chances and odds that somebody would be more interested in continuing it as a racetrack. But again, it just comes down to that dollar amount.
Yeah. Speaking of dollar amounts, it's a great segue, by the way. Belmont Stakes.
Yeah.
Speaking
of racing.
Yes. What was your thought on that, having the fortunes of Saratoga hosting the Belmont this year?
Yeah, well, for 2 years, we're hosting the Belmont, and at this point, I think we should just move the whole meet here.
I'd love that. Actually, they showed that we had
Why not?
higher attendance numbers than Belmont did.
Well, and look at the handle.
$136 million.
Yeah, so if you look at the handle on the day on the racing, that not on Saturday. Saturday was record breaking for a non-Triple Crown race, so already blew away the history.
And
as far
next
as
year
that
would be a
goes.
non-Triple Crown.
But if you compare the Thursday handle, the Friday handle, I mean, blew the other tracks away.
Yeah, they said it was Naira's record for a non-Triple Crown event.
Yeah,
And
but that was on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yep.
They just said over as a whole. Is what the article said.
But if you compare
Still,
the
huge.
Thursday handle to non-Belmont race day handles, but on the same weekend at Belmont, much higher here in Saratoga. On Wednesday night, we had a very unique event. We put up a stage on Broadway in Saratoga Springs, right by the city center, shut down Broadway. We had 3 bands. And
the attendance, they said, was almost 30,000.
It was huge. I was up on stage speaking. It was prior to Blues Traveler coming out. They were the main attraction, so it wasn't dark yet. But I was up on that stage, and it was shoulder to shoulder as far as you could see.
Awesome.
And it probably only grew as the evening went on. So, yeah, it was a huge crowd and just went very smoothly. So from Wednesday right through the weekend, it was very successful outing. I'm sure the businesses did very well.
Record tax intakes, sales tax records, they said.
Yeah, I mean, from what I was,
Receipts, I mean.
from what I was told weeks ago, all the hotel rooms in Clifton Park were booked for that weekend. Obviously, Saratoga had their hotels were booked. So, the whole hospitality industry did quite well.
Very well
as far as and the economy as a whole. So, overall, great experience. We're looking forward to next year.
So next year, they said it will be the final leg of the Triple Crown. So it'll probably be an even bigger turnout because the stakes are going to be even higher.
Yeah, and if it is a Triple Crown race, I mean, I can't imagine what that would do.
Yeah, they said it was be the final leg of the Triple Crown will be the Belmont at Saratoga.
Yeah, so if you have a horse that's running for that Triple Crown victory, everything's just going to be turned up another 10 notches.
Do you own any horses?
Do I own horses?
Yeah.
No.
So I
don't.
A little sidebar. I belong to an association that owns a couple of horses.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Yeah, kind of fun. You can get in that relatively inexpensive.
Yeah.
And it's really fun because you get updates on your horse, and if it runs at Saratoga, you get the paddock pass and the clubhouse and free park. You get a whole bunch of like the owner's benefits.
Right.
But it's kind of fun if you have a chance and you enjoy horse racing. There's no better way to go to the horse races when you own the horse.
I prefer the other type of horsepower we were talking
Yes,
about earlier,
yes,
but I like horse racing.
You can own both, I'm sure. What is your overall sense on Saratoga getting bigger races like that? Horse races, we're sticking to horse races, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have the Travers, which is a
Huge.
huge event, and the meet itself is extremely successful. So I would expect that our meet will continue to be successful. The Travers will be the prime race during that meet, and obviously once the Belmont track is ready, the Belmont will be going back down south.
No way to keep it here, huh?
No, I don't foresee that. Not after the investment they're making in the track. It's rather large. So
Sure.
I would expect we won't be seeing the Belmont here anytime soon after next year.
It's too bad.
Take advantage while you can, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's what we tried to do. We've tried to do as much as we can around the race to really showcase Saratoga County. There's a lot to see here. There's a lot to do. We like to say, why not live where you vacation? And it's a great place, right? And when you live somewhere that you're proud of, you like to show it off. And so we try to have some of these unique shows like that Belmont on Broadway, but the county was involved, but there were so many partners that worked to make that happen. SEDC and Discover Saratoga, the Chamber. I'm going to leave somebody out, so I better stop there. But there was a great team. The City Center.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Yeah, the City
Great
Center
job.
was terrific. So, great team. Everybody pulled together, and that's what you need to make things happen. You need a good team effort, everybody working together, and you can do great things. And we've seen that in Saratoga County.
All right.
Great.
With that closing off, you want to say anything to our viewers about the upcoming things in Saratoga before we head out here? Summer of fun.
Yeah, there's a lot going on across the county. Just stay close to our social media page at the county as well as your local municipality. I know in Clifton Park we have a full slate of shows coming up. We've got some
Nice 4th of July
some great
fireworks.
bands. Yeah, we've got some great bands through our concert series. We have on Sunday nights we have our kids shows on Wednesday nights, so those will be starting up soon. Our full-day summer camp starting. So a lot going on in Clifton Park and your neighboring communities. So get out there and enjoy the summer while it's here.
Nice,
That's
Phil.
great.
Thank you for coming in. Do you have anything more to ask for?
No, I think we covered quite a bit.
All right. We're going to list everything and all the links in our description below. If you feel free to reach out, check it out. There's all sorts of stuff to see and do. And as usual, thanks again. And we shall see you guys again.
Thanks for having me, guys. Good to see you.
Ciao.
Thanks for having me here.